Hello and welcome to Crime Divers. I'm Laura.
And I'm Jill.
And join us this week for a Halloween special.
Oh, welcome back everybody.
Hello, happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. So today we have just a wee bonus episode because we thought, well, it's Halloween, so why not
do something a bit spooky?
Yeah, so I've got a story which involves spooky stuff, but
I'm gonna be scared.
it'll also be crime as well because obviously, like, people died to be spooky.
Yeah, I suppose.
So, what did you just say there? Are you gonna be scared?
Yeah.
Seriously? No, you're not gonna be scared.
Oh, alright.
But my story, because I haven't told Laura yet what my story is,
I'm interested to hear it.
I'm going to tell everybody about the Edinburgh Vaults.
Oh, really? I've been to the vaults.
You've been to the vaults, so I thought you might appreciate a story about the vaults.
I have been in the vaults.
So,
yes.
do you have anything spooky to tell us? Can you remember?
Well, it was a few years ago now that I went, but I went with my husband and two of my friends, and
Was it spooky?
it was eerie. I would say eerie. 'Cause
For anybody, obviously I'm going to get into it in the episode, but just to kind of set the picture, the vaults are actually underground, so they're under Edinburgh.
yeah. 'Cause
For anybody that doesn't know, they're under Edinburgh. So I will, or if you've got any stories, do you want to tell us afterwards?
yeah, I mean, I can tell you as we go along, because maybe what you're going to say, I might reference, because
Right,
I might have
yeah.
had a similar experience or was told that story.
Yeah, okay, we'll do that then. I've never been to the vaults because I am a massive wimp and I get a fright just when somebody walks in the door. So
Yeah.
So it's not something that I've done.
I wouldn't say I was ever. I didn't never feel frightened at it, but it was. I'd say it was eerie.
Right.
It was definitely eerie.
Okay, well, shall I just tell you the story?
Dive in.
Right, let's dive in. Do you actually know the background of the vaults?
I probably would have been told the story maybe at the time, but to be honest, it was a good few years ago now. So
And you're getting old
I
now.
remember bits of it, but I don't remember it all. So it'd be quite interesting for you to tell me, and I might remember some of it.
Well, I actually knew nothing. I just knew that we had vaults and they were, because obviously we lived near Edinburgh, so I knew we had Edinburgh Vaults, that they were underground, and
there's like a whole city underground.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
People don't know that there was a city and we've obviously built on top of it.
yeah. There's actually a city under Edinburgh, so I mean, obviously I knew that, but I didn't know anything else really.
No, I mean I know bits and pieces, but I wouldn't say I'm totally clued up on it. I mean, if anybody that knows Edinburgh, you know there's a lot of different tours that you can do in Edinburgh with different things about it.
Yeah, that's a good thing
That's
about
just
Edinburgh. We have lots of tours. So if anybody's thinking of coming to Edinburgh, maybe, I don't know what's happening with COVID. I mean, I don't know if they still have the tours on, but
Probably not at the moment. In the future.
but if anybody wants to come up in the future, like Edinburgh has lots of witchery tours, ghost tours, the underground tours.
Yeah, I've been in the graveyard.
Great place to come. Yeah, graveyards. Really spooky place to come. I think Edinburgh's is it Scotland's the most haunted country in the world, and I think Edinburgh's one of the most haunted cities in the world, I think.
It's got a whole city underneath it then.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yes.
let's dive in.
Let's dive in.
So, in the late 18th century, Edinburgh was growing. So there were two bridges built to facilitate the expansion. So we've got the North Bridge and the South Bridge. So obviously...
That's right. Yeah, because that's where you go in the vaults.
Yeah.
You go into the vaults because there's obviously like a door into it on the bridge that takes you into the vaults.
So, for us, we obviously know where the North and the South Bridge is. So it's basically shops and pubs and things like that, isn't it? On it.
Pubs. I remember.
Yeah, a lot of pubs. Yeah. So the South Bridge was built to span between the High Street and the University of Edinburgh on the south side. It wasn't just a crossing from the old town to the south side, though. It was actually Edinburgh's first purpose-built shopping street. So the bridge itself is a 19-arch viaduct, although only one arch is visible today.
Yes.
Do you know where that is?
Is that there in the Cowgate?
Yep, it's the Cowgate Arch. I can actually picture that. I was like, check me.
Because I just remember where we actually went for the tour, and I remember walking down past the Cowgate, down that area.
Right.
Which if anybody doesn't know the Cowgate is obviously a part of Edinburgh where there's quite a lot of pubs.
Yeah, there's a lot of pubs down there. I used to have a good night out down the Cowgate.
There was a couple of clubs. I'm not sure what they are now.
Yeah, there was. Well,
I mean, they've had different names.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've been down there.
The Three Sisters. That's a big pub.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people go to. But yeah.
So that's the only one that's visible. The other 18 arches were enclosed behind tenement buildings built to allow the area to serve as a commercial district. The hidden arches of the bridge were then given extra floors to allow their use for industry. In total, there are about 120 vaults under South Bridge.
Oh, really? I didn't know there was that.
Yeah, and they range in size between 2 metres squared and 40 metres squared. Mm-hmm. So some of them must be quite big then. If there's some of them are 2 metres squared and some of them are 40.
I'm assuming the tour officer only takes you into a certain part of it.
Yeah, I think some of the vaults are still shut off. But I think some of them could still be opened in the future.
Right.
So, South Bridge officially opened for business on the 1st of March 1788.
Oh wow, that's a long time ago.
I know. So the vaults were used to house taverns and workshops and storage for tradesmen. Unfortunately, these businesses didn't last long there because the construction of the bridge was rushed and the surface was never sealed against water. So there was a lot of leaking.
Yeah, when you go in there's a bit of damp.
You
can sort of see the damp, and you can just feel the coldness in the air there. So it probably is from the.
Yeah, but that could be the ghosties.
Well, that probably could be the ghosties too. But yeah, I recall.
So businesses started abandoning the vaults as early as 1795. I mean, it only opened in 1788, so that's only 7 years since they opened. Mm-hmm. With the vaults being gradually abandoned by the businesses, the empty vaults were taken over. So as the Industrial Revolution took hold of Britain, the Cowgate area had developed in Edinburgh's slums. Slum dwellers took over the vaults and they became a red light district with lots of brothels and pubs operating there. So the vaults also served as additional slum housing for the city's poor.
Right.
Living conditions were horrendous. The rooms were cramped, dark and damp. There was no sunlight, poorly circulated air, no running water and no sanitation. Many rooms housed families of more than 10 people. So you can imagine, you've obviously been down there, so...
They're not that big at all. I mean, there is no light down there. It is dingy.
Yeah.
As
no sanitation.
No, I mean, it's not. It wouldn't be nice to. I don't know if I remember there being a bit of a smell here and there as well.
Probably.
Like a sort of stale smell.
Yeah. So nice. There were robberies and murders committed down there. The serial killers Burke and Hare, who sold corpses to medical schools, were they're said to have hunted for victims in the Edinburgh Vaults.
Well, yeah, because they were kind of doing stuff, right? Because I've also been on the Burke and Hare tour, or the Witch tour as they call it, where it talks about Burke and Hare, and there's a bit about them that they talk about just up from where the vaults are. So they must have been in that vicinity. Yeah, that actually makes sense.
They looked for victims there, but that's a different story, obviously. But I think I might actually do that for the podcast at some point. Yeah. No, I think that could be quite interesting to do Burke and Hare. Mm-hmm. So maybe someday. I'll put it on the list.
Yes.
So it's not known exactly when the vaults were closed down, but it was sometime between 1835 and 1875. Right. And at some point, tons of rubble were dumped into the vaults, making them inaccessible. Mm-hmm. But the vaults were rediscovered by former Scottish rugby player Norrie Rowan after he found a tunnel leading to them in the 1980s.
Oh, right.
So I didn't know that. Did you?
No, I didn't know that.
That was quite interesting because from this tunnel he helped. There's a Romanian rugby player, Christian Raducanu. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, but anyway, he was a Romanian rugby player. Uh-huh. So Norrie helped him escape the Romanian secret police.
Right.
And seek political asylum weeks before the Romanian Revolution of 1989.
Oh, and is that how you discovered the tunnel?
Yeah, that's how we discovered it. I didn't actually realise that they were reopened that recently. I thought it was a long time ago.
I just assumed they were around for... I just assumed they'd always been known.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know they'd been rediscovered. So... So the vaults were excavated by Norrie Rowan and his son Norman in the 1990s.
Right, so
it's only been since the 90s that they've been open. Open again.
Yeah.
Hundreds of tons of rubble were removed by hand, and several interesting artefacts were discovered, including thousands of oyster shells, which were part of the staple diet of the Edinburgh working class.
Right. Is that not quite posh?
Well, I think now it is, but
But not then.
not then.
Have you ever tried oyster?
No, and I don't intend to.
I was laughing because I went to a wedding a couple of years ago in Gozo, that's in Malta, or an island of
Yeah.
Malta. And we had been at the ceremony, and obviously they had like sort of appetizers afterwards, like little treat, what do you call them, like entrees and
Yeah.
nibbles and stuff after they'd been married, and there was oysters there. And I mean, I didn't try it, but one of the girls that I was with, she was like, "Oh, I'm going to try one." It's hilarious, just like, initially getting it in her mouth and trying to see her swallow it, and I have to say it came back to haunt her because later that night she was sick quite a lot. She thinks it was the oyster, but
yeah.
I mean the face that people
No.
pull with the oyster, I'm like, it doesn't even look enjoyable.
It doesn't, and I just, it's actually, I'm open to trying things, but I think that's just one thing that I'm just like, no.
I'm not really into seafood that much.
No, I'm not either. No,
But
no thanks.
I just something
It just looks slimy, and
yeah.
I just think the feel of it in your mouth wouldn't be very nice.
I know. I think she did regret it afterwards,
Yeah.
but no, it just makes me
I
laugh.
definitely won't be trying now, especially after that.
No.
So current uses of the Edinburgh Vaults are, well, you'll know, but the vaults on the north side of the Cowgate Arch form a series of tunnels and vaults and are mainly used for ghost tours. The vaults on the south side of the Cowgate Arch form a venue called the Caves and the Rowan Tree.
Oh, the caves.
Oh, I'm just thinking, Rowan? That was the guy's name, wasn't it? That rediscovered...
Oh, yeah.
Oh. I didn't even realise that when I was writing it.
And I was just saying the caves because that was where me and Justin had actually looked to get potentially married.
Yeah,
in
right
the
enough.
caves.
Aye, you can get married in the
I didn't realise
caves.
that was actually to do with the vaults, right enough.
Yeah, so, yeah, right enough, because the vaults on the south side of the Cowgate Arch form a venue called the Caves and the Rowan Tree, which hosts private events, weddings, private dining, live music, and the occasional club nights. I forgot you looked into that.
Yeah, because that was one of the ones that I thought about before we decided on the one that we went with.
Because I remember looking at the photos. I forgot that's where that was.
I
Yeah.
didn't realise that was to do with that. There you go. So I've obviously been in the north side for the tours then.
You must have been.
Cool.
So during the Edinburgh Festival in August, the vaults that make up the Caves and the Rowan Tree, along with several unused vaults, are transformed into major festival venue into a major festival venue hosting over 60 different shows a day.
Oh, wow.
I didn't realise it was, I mean, obviously I know there's a lot of shows in the festival, but 60 shows a day.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. So in case you didn't know, Edinburgh is one of the most haunted cities in the world. We actually do know that because I've already said it.
Did you say that?
I didn't realise I'd wrote that down. So I did spoiler for that earlier on there. The reputation of the Edinburgh Vaults is one of murder, mayhem, mystery and torture. The underground world crackles with paranormal activity.
Yes.
So people, I didn't know this either, people do think that Southbridge itself is haunted. Did you know that?
I mean, on the top of my head, I'm not sure if I know that. I may have heard it.
Right, okay, I'll tell you. Well, I never knew that, and I went to college just off Southbridge. So I spent quite a bit of time up there, and I'd never heard anything about it being haunted. No, but the reason that people think it's haunted is because when the bridge was completed, it was agreed that the wife of a judge was going to be the first person to walk over it.
Right.
But unfortunately, she died a few days before it opened.
Oh, sure.
But as they had made a promise to the local authority, sorry, I'm going to start that sentence again.
Try again.
It's Halloween. The ghosties are making me
Scared.
Yeah,
Jumpy.
I can't speak properly.
Oh, she's another week.
Shut up. But as they had made a promise, the local authority decided to uphold it, and she was the first person to cross the bridge, but she was in a coffin.
Oh, right.
So the locals considered the bridge to be cursed because
Right, okay.
obviously it was a dead person that crossed it.
Just maybe a coincidence, really, but okay.
To me, that just sounds like somebody's just made that up. Like, it's not, there's no evidence that it's haunted, or cursed. It's just that's what happened, and people are thinking, oh, that's a bad omen.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
But maybe it was, because maybe. I think people have maybe thought that's why the vaults ended up, you know, getting flooded and all that kind of stuff, because it was cursed.
Right. Okay.
So, who knows? Anyway, the vaults. So visitors to the vaults often report seeing ghosts, and apparently one of these spirits is still seeking revenge for her death, which was 200 years ago.
See, this is the one that actually does ring a bell to me, because I vaguely remember the tour guide saying about a woman that was like obviously died, and she was very angry and very, you know, supposedly people had seen signs of her in the vaults and stuff. I mean, personally, I didn't.
Yeah, I think she's obviously quite popular.
Yeah.
And
because I'm sure I remember, like, 'cause if you go into one of the vaults, I'm sure there's like almost sort of like shelf-like bits, like sort of inlets where people can, like, you know, put stuff on a shelf sort of type thing.
Right.
Like an alcove sort of thing. And I'm sure that the tour guide said something along the lines of like people would sort of say that they could see her up there, glaring at you.
Ooh.
So I mean, again, didn't personally experience that, but I remember kind of looking up to see, can I see anything?
I wouldn't be looking. I would be walking through that place with my eyes shut and earplugs in.
What's the point of going on tour?
Well, exactly. That's why I haven't been. And when I told my husband that I was doing this, he said, and I was like saying it sounded really interesting. He's like, "Well, do you want to go?" And I was like, "Yeah, but not with you." And he's like, "Why?" Because he gives me frights all the time. You know my husband.
Yes,
he gives me a fright all the time, doesn't he?
Yeah,
I mean,
I think he likes to do it because he knows how.
Yeah, he knows. I mean, like, it wasn't that long. Was it last year? Sometime he stood at the bottom of the stairs behind all the coats, and I walked down the stairs and he jumped out on me. And yeah. So I wouldn't go in because he would be constantly like touching me and like breathing in my ear and all that kind of stuff.
Stand next to him. You don't know him.
Yeah, I'd be like, you go that side, I'll be on this side. So anyway, this woman, a lot of people have seen her in the same place, and the description is always the same. She was young, she had long dark hair and blood on her face. The story goes that she went down into the vaults to meet two men. I don't know why. I'm not sure if she was like working out the brothels or anything like that. I'm not sure why she was meeting two men.
Right, okay.
But she was actually attacked by a group of 30 men.
30?
30. I mean, like, why would 30 men attack one woman? Well, why would any man attack a woman? But 30.
My God.
And she was murdered. But because there were so many of them, nobody was prosecuted for her murder.
Right.
So it's thought that she won't rest until her killer is punished, but of course that's never going to happen because obviously the killer, they'll all be dead. So she'll never rest. There was actually one occasion when there was a 7-year-old boy from New York. He was on one of the daytime historical tours of the vault, and he sat on this. There was just like a little set of steps, and he sat on a step and he started talking to something. Like there was just nobody there, and he just started talking.
Oh, wow. They do say kids can sort of see that kind of thing.
And it must have been that ghost, because the little boy had said that the men had been bad to the lady.
Right. I've got goosebumps. Oh,
really?
Yeah. Oh,
so bad, but it's just gone cold. Reportedly, that's where she had been stopped by the men, like on those steps.
Right, okay.
And she had got her. This is horrible. She had got her head so severely beaten off the steps that when her body was found, her skull was in 6 pieces.
Oh wow!
So that was a violent death.
Definitely 30 men. I mean,
I know, that's awful, isn't it?
But
and her body was taken to the local school of autonomy, is that how you pronounce it? Anatomy, and sold for nothing more than beer money for the local police.
Really?
No wonder she's angry.
I know.
But how weird is that that little boy who's 7 years old from New York would have known nothing about this woman.
I'm surprised that a 7-year-old's on a ghost tour like that.
Well, it's not. It's a historical tour.
Oh yeah, because I went at night time,
so obviously
slightly different.
Yeah, maybe it's a different one that's maybe not as scary. Like I don't know.
There's no light in the vaults. So
Well, maybe they light it up more. Maybe they have like strong torches. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah.
Because I kind of thought that as well. Because I thought, a 7-year-old. But I find it interesting that, as I said, he's 7 years old. He's from New York. He's not going to know anything about these vaults.
No.
So to go and sit on that exact set of steps where this woman was murdered, and to say
The men
were bad to the lady.
Yeah.
That's I've got goosebumps.
Oh, that's.
Ooh.
I like ghost stories. I like hearing stuff like that, but I don't know how I would feel if I actually experienced that myself.
I would run. I don't run unless somebody's chasing me, but I would run.
Yeah,
I would have to know where the exit was at all times, so that if I had to make a quick exit, then I would be able to.
You're not making a quick exit out of the vaults.
Right, okay, I'm just never going there then.
There's only one way in and one way out, I'm pretty sure. And obviously the tour guide holds the key to that.
No.
I'm sure they lock it behind them.
They don't.
No,
because later on in the story, I'm sure somebody runs out.
Do they? Because I'm just sure the entrance, you go in like a door, and I'm sure you went up some steps, so I'm sure that they must have to lock, because otherwise any Tom, Dick and Harry could just walk in off the street.
Do they not have like a security guard?
I don't remember seeing one.
Yeah.
I just remember the tour guide having like the key to give us.
Well, I don't like the sound of that, being locked in. No, I'm not doing it. Right, okay, where was I? So visitors down to the vaults and spent time there have reported being pinched, scratched, prodded and hearing noises. Some claim to have seen apparitions and also had stones thrown at them. I'm human. Experts reckon that there's a poltergeist active down there. Mm-hmm. No, I don't know. Nope. There's a spirit. I don't like the sound of this guy. There's a spirit. I don't know if it was called the Watcher or Mr. Boots.
Oh, the Watcher. That name rings a bell. I'm not entirely sure though.
Well, I mean, he's called that because, like, apparently he watches, but is more commonly known as Mr. Boots.
Right.
Is one of the most feared residents. He's a mean-spirited man who wears big, heavy boots, which is why he's called Mr. Boots.
Oh, I think that might be a thing about hearing footsteps and stuff, maybe.
I wish your memory was better.
Well, it's not as good as yours isn't that great either.
Well, yeah, but I haven't been there, so I'm not trying to remember anything.
Oh, but it was a few years ago now. It was like, I think we must have been out for dinner and drinks as well, so I might have had a few drinks.
Oh. So he wears big, heavy boots, and visitors feel like they are being watched. And they hear those heavy boots walking behind them.
Yeah, I don't remember if I heard them, but I remember maybe being told about them. Yeah.
Well, this stuff that I'm telling you, the tour guide probably told you.
I would think so,
yeah. Mr. Boots, this is funny though, because Mr. Boots has no eyeballs, so I don't know how they can call him the Watcher, and they feel like they're being watched, because he's not got any eyeballs.
Yeah, that's a bit random.
But he's got no eyeballs, and he has pushed people, and he shouts, "Get out."
No.
And see, there was a psychic medium there once, and she actually ran out of the vaults when she tried to communicate with him because she said he was completely evil. But then again, if she wasn't on a tour, if she was just there trying to contact him, then maybe that was different.
I'm sure they must. I don't remember. Anyway.
And Mr. Boots hates anyone in his room because he murdered a prostitute and buried her body in there.
Ooh.
And I know you're not really supposed to say prostitute now, but back then, that's what they were called. They were called prostitutes, so I'm using that word.
Fair enough.
Right. So, I did actually see a photo of Mr. Boots.
Oh.
In the picture, he is standing behind a woman, so obviously, I don't know why you... like, if you're going to try and take a photo down there because it's dark, so I can't...
Yeah.
Anyway, but to be honest, I couldn't really make it out. I wouldn't have noticed anything if it hadn't been circled, because obviously it was on the internet and it had been circled.
I hope you're going to post that picture.
I'll post it, because other people will probably be able to see it. I mean, I can just about make out maybe what looks like a pair of boots.
Right, okay.
But I'm rubbish with things like that. I mean, like, seriously, if somebody shows me their baby scan, I'm like, what's that? Like, it just looks like a blob to me. Like,
right, okay.
So...
You're not good at making stuff out.
Yeah, I'm not good with that. Like...
Oh well, I'll have to have a look at it.
I can actually remember seeing somebody's baby scan. I can't remember whose it was. Maybe her sister-in-law's maybe the first one, and my mum had to kind of say, well, that's that's its head. I'm like, all right, okay. So I'll post it, and I'm sure people probably will go, well, duh, yeah, you can see it.
Yeah, just you that can.
Yeah. So the entrance to the South Bridge Vaults is on Nidri Street, and the road itself has a scary past. It was famous in the 1580s, right into the early 17th century, with witchcraft trials. The most famous witch on that street was Agnes Finney, And apparently she's still around.
She's still around? Oh, God, no. Oh, my God.
Did you just have a blonde moment there?
Still around as if she's still alive. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So our spirit is still around.
Yeah, I thought you would have got that, considering she was alive in like the 17th century, whatever it was.
Oh, I even thought that.
Agnes was a widow and she had a reputation for cursing people in the street. I read quite a lot of the things that she did, which is too many to mention, but she was pretty much a bad bitch. One instance is that she bumped into a little boy in the market and Aggie just walked into her by accident, and she cursed him, and he became paralysed and died two days later. Oh. So I told you she was a bad bitch.
Yeah, she is, isn't she?
There was lots of other stuff as well, but as I said, there was too much to mention. I mean, if you wanted to look it up, her name's Agnes Finney, and you can see all the stuff that she did. But I just thought that one kind of jumped out at me just because it was a little boy. Yeah. Like this.
By accident.
Yeah. So eventually she was arrested on 20 counts of witchcraft and sorcery. She was burned to death on the Castle Hill on the 6th of March 1645. So no, she's not still alive.
Obviously.
But if you do encounter her now, just drop a coin at her feet and she will do you no harm.
Why does she want a coin?
Because she's a greedy bitch.
Oh, she can't spend it.
Yeah, but a lot of ghosts don't realise that they're dead.
Okay.
I don't know. Just telling you what I've read.
What if you pick them all up? Need a few extra quid for something. I'm just going to pick all the coins up.
I would. I'm like, why are all those coins lying there? I'll just have them. But they should probably put a curse on me.
Maybe not a good idea. Then.
Yeah. There's a room down there. Did you see the room it's got the stone circle in it?
Yes.
So there's apparently a demon trapped inside that circle.
Yes, I remember.
Did you go and stand inside it? Oh,
I don't think I did. But I do remember that.
I
remember the room. Remember the room.
On one occasion, a priest went on a tour there. He believed he'd picked up on a demonic entity, and he actually said brick up the door and keep the room sealed, but they didn't do that because obviously, why have a ghost tour?
Well, yeah, if you can't go in the room that's...
So many visitors that have stood in the stone circle leave with cuts, scratches and bruises, and for some...
Oh no, I didn't stand in it. I don't think the tour guide asked you if you wanted to.
Alright.
And I don't think I did.
No, I wouldn't have.
About it. But I'm pretty sure there was someone on the tour that did, but again, nothing.
Mm.
I didn't find my tour very active,
right?
In the sense of any paranormal.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure some people. I mean, I watched a sort of video thing on YouTube, and people have said that they'd been down there and all this stuff had happened. And then they've went back and nothing's happened. So obviously, just.
But no, I didn't. I don't really recall anything significantly happening when we were down there. I just felt again spooky and eerie, and that was it. I don't remember feeling or nobody mentioned that they felt anything or saw anything.
Right. Boring. I would ask for my money back.
So
many visitors are stood in the stone circle, leave with cuts, scratches, bruises, and for some, even for weeks afterwards, they've suffered things like sleep paralysis and seeing shadows and shapes around their own homes. Right. So it's like something's maybe attached onto them. Yeah. When the vaults first opened, many children disappeared whilst working down there. The vaults back in the days of business were very well run, and some of them had a fireplace, and the children were paid by a local tradesman to go up the chimneys and clean them.
Oh, did I got stuck up there?
Yeah, some of them never came down.
Ugh.
Yeah, they didn't bother to go up and get... I don't know why they didn't bother to go up and get their bodies, but...
Right, but then what happens when somebody else went up to clean the chimney but they not see the bodies?
Don't know, I don't know.
That's weird.
Because, back in 1992... when making the vault safe for the public to come in, they were renovating one of the fireplaces and they found pieces of bone. It turned out that they were children's bones. They were from a boy between the ages of 7 and 12. And, sorry. There were lots of children born in the vaults but who also died as a result of malnutrition, disease and of murder. So there's lots of stories about children haunting the vaults. Numerous people have heard cries, whimpers, laughing and singing from children over the years. One of the most cited child ghosts is a little boy called Jack. It's thought that he doesn't mean any harm, but he's mischievous. He tugs at people's clothing, he trips people up and throws stones and coins.
Well, but doesn't pick the coins up from the witch.
Okay. So that's obviously where the stones comes from. One of the most tragic events in the history of the city was the Great Fire of Edinburgh. I didn't know there was a Great Fire of Edinburgh, did you?
I've heard of the Great Fire of London.
Yeah, I hadn't.
No, I can't say I've
heard of that.
Of Edinburgh.
No, we're obviously not very good with our history, are we?
Well, to be honest, because you live here, I suppose it's not something. I mean, I know bits and pieces about stuff, but there's probably a lot of stuff that I have no idea about because, well, I don't know.
We just don't know. But yeah, so one of the most tragic events in the history of the city was the Great Fire of Edinburgh, which started in an engraver's shop on the 15th of November 1824. Hundreds of families living in the vaults perished. One of the largest structures on the Royal Mile caught fire, and with the wind picking up, the fire spread quickly and soon got out of control. And apparently the police locked the entrance to the vaults.
Why?
I don't know. I don't know why.
It's known that there were people in there.
Yeah, I'm like, surely, well, why not give them a chance to get out?
Well, yeah.
I don't understand why.
They must have had a reason.
A lot of the people in the vaults took their own lives, and some slit their own children's throats to spare them the horrendous agony of being burned, because they knew they weren't going to survive it, so they just committed suicide. They just killed themselves and their kids and whatever.
Thinking that's
that's awful, isn't it?
Do that.
Yeah, it's awful.
That's awful.
So interesting. I know that sounds weird, but it's so interesting to learn stuff like this.
Oh, definitely.
In most of the rooms down there, it's so cold that you can see your breath. But there's a section where it's the complete opposite. It's roasting, and some people feel that they can't breathe and they have to leave. So that's obviously to do with the fire.
I remember seeing my breath.
Yeah.
Because we did go when it was winter as well. Right? So it was cold outside. I don't know if it was the same inside, but you definitely felt saw your breath anyway.
So did you not go into the room where it was roasting?
I don't remember that.
No.
No, I remember being cold and then my breath, but I don't know.
Well, people have said that it's like so hot that they actually feel like there's their skin's burning.
I remember that, so probably it doesn't sound like it did or.
Right. Okay. Well, shut them.
Okay.
Some visitors report seeing a tall, dark shadow man, who many believe to be called the surgeon, who was a body snatcher.
Ooh.
Apparently, the surgeon, when he was alive, he would creep up behind people and smother their faces with a pillow, dragging their bodies to his secret quarters, where he would use their bodies for surgical dissection and horrific procedures.
Oh, what, whilst we're alive still?
Yeah.
Why are people so evil? What's wrong with people?
I don't know. In the cobbler's room, there is said to be the spirit of a woman who sits opposite an evil male spirit that deeply resents pregnant women. So don't go in there if you're pregnant.
No.
The woman spirit, who is dressed completely in black, is claimed to have told psychics that she lost her child for some unknown reason.
Right.
I don't know if that meant she lost her child when she was pregnant or...
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe she's like pregnant women because she's jealous.
No, it's not her that doesn't like the pregnant women. It's the evil male spirit.
Oh, sorry.
So, yeah, in the cobbler's room, there is said to be the spirit of a woman that sits opposite an evil male spirit that deeply resents pregnant women. Right? So, a visitor who was 6 months pregnant heard a baby crying in the corner of the room, and she suddenly had the urge to throw up, and she just had to leave.
Oh, right.
And that's it. Basically, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of other stories in the of ghosts in the vaults, but I didn't want to make it like a massively long episode, so that's it. And
wow.
I hope you found it interesting.
Yeah,
because I did. I thought it was interesting.
Interesting. It's just annoying that I can't remember it from when I went.
Maybe you're gonna have to go again.
Well, maybe. I know.
I'm not coming.
Oh, well, I wouldn't do what John does to you.
I know, but like after reading this, I got goosebumps from reading that, so I'm kind of like,
well, for research purposes.
I actually think that I would have to take some medication.
Have a few drinks.
Take some medication before I go. I'm just not good with scary stuff. I don't watch scary movies.
I must admit, I am actually quite jumpy as well, so I wouldn't particularly watch like scary films that much either, but something still makes me do the things now and again, even though I'm not that keen on it, because I know what I'm like. I mean, I remember going to Florida a few times at Halloween time, and if anybody that knows Florida, like in the theme parks, they have like haunted houses over Halloween. and you would go through the haunted house, and people would just basically jump out at you all the way through it.
No.
And for some reason, even though I'm like the jumpiest person, Justin would always go, "You go first," and he would be like right behind me. Like, don't get me wrong, he'd be like holding my hand or like hugging me, because you couldn't go in single file.
And he was being you
first. And I'm like, but you know how jumpy I am, and even though I knew how jumpy I was, I would still do it. But they were scary. They were very scary.
No. That's just not for me. Just no.
Yeah.
Ghosts, haunted stuff. I did have one spooky experience.
Mm-hmm.
I was, well, a long time ago now. I was babysitting for a friend, and I had the kid the kid was in the bath, so I was giving him a bath, and the phone rang. So obviously I'm not going to leave the kid in. But
back in the day of landlines.
Yes, the landline. So obviously I had to pick the child out of the bath to go and answer the phone, and it was the child's mum, just checking in, making sure everything was all right. So chatted to her for a few minutes, and then put the phone down. Went back through to the bathroom, and there was no water in the bath. The plug was out of the bath and was on the side, was like up on the side of the bath.
And you didn't.
And there was nobody else in the house. It was only me.
And you hadn't taken the plug out?
No. I just, because obviously the phone was ringing, so I was like, kind of, quick.
Yeah.
Because, it's like they only usually let it ring a few times, then hang up, and then you had no way of knowing who it was.
Yeah.
So when the phone rings, you used to run for it.
Yeah.
So just grabbed the child, ran for the phone, went back, the water, it was as if somebody took the plug out, put it on the side of the bath, and the water drained out.
Oh, wow.
But there was nobody else in the house. But she had that friend that I had, she had a few spooky experiences in and out of that house, so maybe she just had somebody following her. Actually, she did say she'd went to a psychic, and she kept saying that she kept feeling somebody touching her shoulder.
Right.
And this psychic told her it was actually her granddad,
right,
who was telling her to move on, because at that time she was in a bad relationship.
Right, okay.
And apparently the psychic had said that's him telling you, to move on, he's pushing you to move on. So maybe it was the granddad. I don't know. Maybe he was saying, well, the bairn needs to go to his bed. Maybe he's been in the bath for long enough. I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I can't remember if I'd washed him yet or not, or if I was just letting him play in the bath. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was. And actually, there was another one in our house, our parents' house. There was one night. You know how you always heard everything in that house, every creak and everything like that. Yeah. And you always knew who was coming up the stairs, just by sound. You knew who was coming up the stairs. And I heard somebody coming up the stairs, which I thought was you.
Right.
But you didn't go anywhere. You got to the top of the stairs, and then it was just total silence. Nobody went into another room or anything like that. And I was like, so I opened the door and looked, and
it was nobody there.
I think you were in bed,
right,
and I think Mum was in bed, and I think Dad was downstairs.
Right.
So there was nobody there, so that was a bit spooky. Yeah,
no, I don't really have any spooky stories.
Well, you're boring. What are you doing on this podcast?
I
You can't remember the vaults. You don't have any spooky stories. What are you doing here? Go home.
I just tag along for the night. No, I've never experienced anything. I've wanted to, because that's why
no, don't say that.
I've never really experienced anything that I've thought spooky, scary. Nothing.
I would actually probably have a heart attack if I saw it. I mean, like my encounters were weird, but it's not like I was seeing anything or hearing. Well, I did hear somebody coming upstairs, but it wasn't
majorly.
That
noise. I mean, I like in the house. I mean, we're not your specific noise, but there is that house. Does definitely you do hear everything. It's like creaky and.
Which is very strange, because when we moved into that house, it was brand new.
Exactly. Nobody's ever lived in a house other than our family.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody else has lived there. So I always say, I think I used to tell you when we were kids. I think I used to tell you that one of the workmen died. Can you not remember that? No. I'm sure I told you that when our house was getting built, that one of the workmen died and they buried him under that.
Nice, are you? What a nice sister you.
And when me and John when we had the flat, we used to live in a flat, and the kids' bedroom was always freezing, so I used to tell them there was a ghost of an old woman that used to sit in their bedroom, because that bedroom was always really cold compared to the rest of the flat. That bedroom was always freezing, so I used to tell them there was a ghost of an old woman, but it didn't mean them any harm, and they weren't scared.
So you're really scared of stuff like that, but you're quite happy to make other people scared.
Yeah, did I not tell you about the time when we took the kids to the cemetery? Oh, see, I shouldn't have started, because I'm like, I've not got any stories. there is one night when the kids, I've got we have two girls who are now 23 and 24, but at the time, I don't know how old they would be, maybe 6 and 7, something like that. And on Halloween, we asked them if they wanted to go to the cemetery at midnight.
At midnight?
Yeah. So they were like, yeah, they were all up for it, let's go. And so we're like, why not? It's Halloween. So
I can't believe you went.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I must have felt awfully brave back then. So as we were walking up towards the cemetery, I was telling them ghost stories about like this cemetery. I can't remember exactly what I was telling them. Something about hands coming over the wall, and I have no idea. So we got to the cemetery, and they were like, right, you ready to go in? And the oldest burst into tears.
Not surprised.
And then the youngest, because she was at that point, that's why she used to live in the older one's shadow. It was everything she did, And as soon as she saw her crying, well, that was it. So both of them just burst into tears, and then we went home. So that was a complete waste of time.
Yeah. Well, that was your fault. Because you had obviously scared them.
I did. I actually scared them on the way to the cemetery because.
You waited until you were inside it.
Yeah, I know. Because like the older one, because she was all like, "I'm not scared." She was giving all the big and all that, I'm not scared, I can handle anything, And as soon as we got there, she just burst into tears. And the younger I think she just burst into tears just because the older one, because she was like, I don't know what she's crying for, but I'm just going to cry as well, because that was just what she did.
She was probably scared as well then after that.
So, yeah, I think we kind of went a bit off on a tangent there.
Oh well.
So there you go. There is the story of the Edinburgh Vaults, which I hope you found interesting.
And let's say, if you're ever in Edinburgh,
there's lots to do.
There's loads of different tours to do. So
I actually did go on a witchery tour in Edinburgh.
Called the Witchery Tour.
Yeah.
And that covers like different things. So like working here is one of them.
Yeah, I don't know what I went on, but I didn't find that very scary.
Do you not remember there was a story of the woman that used to throw the waste out in the streets and shout "Gardyloo"?
Everybody used to do that.
Well, there was one. Well, that was a story of the Witchery Tour. I don't know what significance she was to it then, but she must.
Oh, maybe a ghost done it, but everybody used to do it when they were alive.
Yeah, to dodge the waste being thrown out.
Wasn't
it? Yeah. But yeah, so that was like, so it wasn't just based on one thing. And then I'd done like the graveyard tour, where you went around the graveyards in Edinburgh, and that was where interestingly, if you're a Harry Potter fan, you find where J.K. Rowling, she used some of the names off the headstones.
Yeah, she did.
In that cemetery for Harry Potter.
Yeah, but is that the really haunted cemetery where you come out with scratches on your face and things like that? Yeah, that should be really haunted. Yeah, I've never been in it. I've walked past it, but I've never been in it.
Justin did that too. But yeah, no, there's plenty.
Yeah, Edinburgh is a really cool place to visit.
Yeah.
So, and not even just for the witchery tours and the ghost tours, it's just it has so much history.
Yeah.
I mean, we could probably sit here and do a podcast for hours on Edinburgh. Yeah. Like, it's such an interesting place.
Maybe now and again we can squeeze one in there.
Yeah, as I said, I think I might do the Birkenhair sometimes. I think that would be
good story. That's one worth a listen. That one.
Yeah. So yeah, if anybody, as obviously, things are different at the moment with COVID, but when things are maybe a bit more back to normal, then come and visit Edinburgh, because they'll probably need the money anyway. Support local businesses and all that.
Because Edinburgh does rely on its tourism a lot. So
and obviously, like this year, we haven't had the festival, and so we've lost out on a lot of money this year.
Yeah, definitely.
So anyway, I think we better just shut up now.
Yeah, stop plugging Edinburgh. Plug us instead.
Yeah. Okay then. So if you want to follow us on Instagram or Twitter,
we are crime_divers_pod.
If you want to join our Facebook group,
we are Crime Divers Podcast.
If you want to send us an email,
we are crime_divers_pod@outlook.com.
If you want to find us on YouTube,
we are Crime Divers, all one word.
Yeah, and we have a Patreon site, which is just Crime Divers. Just search for Crime Divers.
There,
So I
hope you all have a fantastic Halloween.
Yeah, I hope, and if anybody has any spooky stories, send them in.
Definitely.
Because, we like I might be a big scaredy, but I do like a wee ghost story. Yeah. So thanks for listening. Happy Halloween. Bye.